Hi, everybody. Welcome back. Next class of our open house. Very excited about this one. This next speaker is always so informative, always has so much to share. So for the simple act of working on your business, I present to you Mr. Aaron Montgomery. Hello, Aaron.
Hey there. Hey, everybody. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm just going to turn it over to you, and
Okay.
you can take it away.
Okay, cool. I see all of the comments flying by, so I'll try to catch what I can, but we'll get into this. Let me, Sprite, if you wouldn't mind tossing my slides up there on screen, that will give everybody. Okay, cool. So you guys can see me still down in the corner. That looks awesome. Thank you so much. All right, well, let's get into this. Yeah, I do have a lot I want to pack into, and I want to be aware of your time and the time that the great folks at Condé have given me here. So today, my goal is to talk to you guys about this process, the simple act of working on your business. And here's the thing I love most about it. It is easy, super easy. In fact, there's no special skills required at all. The only thing you have to be doing is to be able to have an idea and put it onto paper. That's it. That's the only thing that you need to be doing. So if you're freaked out about a business plan, if you're freaked out about what we're going to talk about here today, just let that go. Take a deep breath. Super easy. No special skills. And it really does boil down to the simple act of the working on your business, not just always in your business. And I'll share kind of what the difference is between the two, but there's a distinction there. And we have to spend some time working on our business to be truly successful. Now, throughout the course of this, I want to share a couple different themes that I think will help. And a lot of this is about just changing your mindset. And I think if we can do that, what that'll do for you is it's going to reduce your overwhelm and hopefully get you some time back with some of the strategies that I'm going to share. So now here's the other thing. Today is I'm going to share some things that might seem counterintuitive at first, but if you can always come back to saying, hey, if I work on my business versus always in my business, the more of that on I can do, the less of the in that I need to do, right? So that's what we're kind of talking about here today. So like I said, let me give you an example here first. Working in your business would be things like the putting out of the fires, trying to handle whatever crisis is in front of you, the customer's calling, employee issues, things not working, tech support, those are working in. And yes, we do have to do those things. But the opposite of that when it comes to working on your business could be something like clarifying your goals and milestones, and then picking out the wins that you have along your path and intentionally scheduling your day so you can manage all those things. I'm going to give you a strategy to do that. Another example might be fretting over your Facebook ad or your Google ad, or kind of listening to the latest marketing guru and giving them your entire marketing budget just to throw as much marketing against the wall to see what sticks. So I'm going to try everything. I'm going to do everything. That's working in your business. The flip side of that would be working on your business, spending some time clarifying your marketing groundwork, kind of understanding who your ideal customer is, what makes you unique. We're going to go through all that here today. So really working on our business is really just about looking ahead. And when we talk about looking ahead, it's kind of understanding that we want to be proactive as much as possible, not always reactive. So that'll be the first part of what we talk about here today. And then in the second section, I'm going to give you some specific strategies for time management that comes from this mindset shift that we're talking about here, and kind of understanding what time management really is. And then I want to just close. I'll give you a summary of all what I feel should be the key takeaways. And I also want to leave plenty of time for Q&A. Like I said, I'm trying to kind of watch the chat as it happens. I appreciate everybody saying hello, but I know I will miss things. So don't feel like just because I miss things that I won't come back to you and be able to see that. There's the Q&A there. I'm going to give you a way to connect with me. So this is just the start of our relationship if I don't already know you yet. So let's do that. All right. Well, let me tell you a little bit about me. And I know some of you already know me, and so I don't need to provide you this big, long bio to sound all impressive and blah, blah, blah. But I do want to share with you kind of my path so you have an understanding of why I'm so passionate about the art of working on your business. So let me go back to early beginnings. My dad was a CPA for 25 years, and he specialized in working with small businesses. And I was fortunate enough to be around his office as a kid. I did stuffed envelopes, did filing, stuff like that for him as I was growing up. And at that time, I started being fascinated by what seemed to make some of his clients successful, or at least in my mind, look successful, versus the ones that you're like, how do they even get out of bed in the morning, right? Even as a kid, I could kind of see that. And what I noticed, what was the kind of the key for me was just going, oh, it's the people who are organized. They seem to be the ones that have their stuff together, so to speak. So that's where it all started. Fast forward into my sales career in the 1990s. I had a sales manager require us to read The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I would highly recommend it myself. And I discovered throughout that process that my favorite habit was begin with the end in mind, the planning. And so that kind of solidified this a little bit more. Fast forward ahead from there, in the 2000s, I worked for a family company, and I was their third or fourth employee that they had beyond the 4 family members. And in about 4 years, we exploded to over 100 employees, and we made the Inc. magazine top 5,000 list. And then only 2 years later, that company went bankrupt. And I'll talk to you about why. They didn't know their numbers, right? They didn't have a plan. So then my next stop was a distribution company. We won't name names here. So we'll just leave it at that. But my responsibility was as the front of the house. And the owner of that company, his favorite stat to quote people was that they got 30 new customers a day. And at first glance, that sounded really cool. But I knew the reality of it was that their active customer base didn't really fluctuate all that much. So it meant that they were losing 30 customers a day some way, shape, or form. And I knew it wasn't just because of the things we were doing on the front of the house. Lots of turnover, lots of businesses that start that never really made it, right? And so all of that kind of stuff. Throughout that whole journey, I've been able to go to over probably 1,000. I didn't count exactly, but I think it's been about 1,000 trade shows. And I got to meet a ton of people. And really, throughout all those stops, what kept eating away at me was just seeing so many good people struggle and potentially fail because they didn't have a good foundation. I watched them buy the shiny objects. Sometimes I was selling them the shiny objects, right? And knowing that without an actual foundation, it didn't matter how good the product was, that they were going to struggle. So I finally took the leap in January of 2020 to build this company, our Success Group, where our whole purpose is to provide actionable resources for small businesses to achieve their idea of success. So that's quick about me. Now, the other thing about me is I'm a certified success principles trainer. This book called The Success Principles by Jack Canfield. I'm certified to teach that, and that's been a really cool program to be a part of. And so as I started kind of getting into this, what am I going to share here today? I felt like I needed to lead with some really strong kind of self-help, Tony Robbins, like, let's go walk through some coals kind of thing. So I thought maybe I'd talk about affirmations first. So are you guys ready? Here is the big affirmation for you guys to take with you today. It is our friend the avocado saying, you're fat, but you're a good fat. So, all right. Terrible joke, I know. Some of you know me and you know that I have a weird sense of humor and I love dad jokes, but I'm actually terrible at telling them. So I rely on cartoons like this. But even if you just gave that a little courtesy laugh, right? A little smile, you add a little smile to your face, that actually activated your dopamine reward system. And research shows that when our dopamine reward system is opened up, that we learn more, we have more of an open mind, and this is going to be more valuable to you. Plus, I got to share a dad joke, so it was valuable to me. But let's get into the actual content here, okay? And enough with the bad dad jokes. I want to get into the first section, and I want to dive right into the process of working on our business. Now, the fact that you're here gives you a head start on the other 30,000 plus businesses in our industry. All right, so just, and do this for me in the comments if you can here, just by typing a yes into the chat. Who here has a written 5-year goal for their business? I call that 5-year goal your breakthrough goal. It's going to really tell you that you're nearly at your idea of success or kind of there. Because even if you don't know, even if you're not a yes over there, you actually do have a goal, right? Otherwise, you would not have started your business. because our brains are built to manage the energy expenditure of all of the things that we do. So it would not have even let you start your business if it didn't see some potential future reward that warranted the energy for doing what you're doing right now, right? The energy that you're using to come and be here. But so you've got a goal. But I think what happens to a lot of us is we get started and then we lose that momentum, right? We end up having more of a dream or a wish. And so we need to have a goal. We need to have something that we can visualize in great details so that when we start putting it in words, right, we can say 5 years from now, here's what it's going to look like. And Lisa says, can it be just one sentence? Absolutely can. We'll talk about goals here in a little bit. So great stuff. All right. So when you have a goal, right, we have this target, right? You can kind of see the target. You see the arrows popping into the target. But to work on your business and be proactive, it requires that next step in planning it out. I kind of look at it like we're reverse engineering. Okay, here's our goal. How do we reverse engineer that? So we really need to flip it around. We need to flip and look at the other side of this. And when we flip it around, then we can start seeing, okay, now we need to put some milestones into place, right? So we kind of need to make it look more like this, where you have that target. And when you have that target, you know, what needs to happen at mile 5 to know that you're on track? What needs to happen at mile 4, 3, 2, 1? And the best part of this process of working on your business is there's no wrong answers. Whatever you think should happen at mile 5, that's the right answer right now, right? Now, will it maybe adjust over time? Absolutely. In fact, most best laid plans don't come to fruition, but without one, you don't know what's working and what's not working. So you can't get it wrong. You can only learn and adjust. And here's the other great part. You don't need to know every single milestone, step, little bitty detail to be moving forward. You just have to fill enough of them in. So if we talk about 5 years, I have to fill enough of those gaps in where I can truly believe that it's possible. Because if we can't truly believe that it's possible, our brain will not allow us to put the energy that we need into making it happen. So with that, I want you to have a goal that you've got so much clarity on what success is for you that you could actually turn that goal into a short story that you would be able to read and follow. Now, Lisa said, can it be one sentence? I think one sentence is great because you want to be able to recite it over and over again. But then from there, tell the story. What's the big picture of it, right? If you can tell that story to your brain and then potentially to other people, guess what's going to happen? You're going to get other people excited. Your subconscious is going to go to work for you. The bad days are going to be very tolerable, right? And that only happens when you have clarity. So the more clarity that you have, the deeper you go into what that goal looks like, the better off you're going to be. So with that being said, let's dive into the next phase here. All right. So after determining a few milestones, now it's time to develop a strategy or a plan or on paper, right? Something. And here's a quote. And this is from Dr. Stephen Covey, who wrote that 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And he says, all things are created twice. There's a mental or first creation and a physical or second creation. So with that idea in mind, Dr. Covey in the book gives an example of building a house. He says, you create it in every detail before you ever hammer the first nail into place. You then reduce that down to a blueprint and you develop the construction plans. You make sure that the blueprint, that first creation, our business plan, is exactly what you want. And then you put it into brick and mortar. You begin with the end in mind, right? That's one of the 7 habits. Begin with the end in mind. So no wrong answers, right? We said that already. No one's grading it, judging it. This is your business, your vision, your money tree. This is yours. If somebody does judge it or tell you that what you're doing is stupid, that's their problem, not yours, right? As long as you love it, as long as you're excited about it, then it works. Dr. Covey goes on to say this. He says, through imagination, we can visualize the uncreated worlds of potential that lie within us. Right? So we have to use that imagination. We have to go through it. So in planning, we can do anything that we want without repercussion, without potential loss, without roadblocks, right? That's the other great part about this is when you just throw stuff against the wall and see what's going to stick, guess what? You're spending valuable energy. You're spending valuable resources, probably like money, things like that, right? In just trying things. We can go so much faster when we just convert it to a plan here first. So let's talk about this first creation a little bit. Now, I updated this. It may be a little bit more updated since then, but I asked in a poll, who has a business plan? So I want to first thank everybody who answered the poll, and kudos to you that have a business plan. I'm actually really excited by this number. It's actually typically a little lower than this when I get to answer that. But as you can see, almost 75% of us have not taken the time to do that first creation. Now, totally understandable because it is so counterintuitive, right? If you don't have one, not to worry. You are taking the first step here today. And actually that answering the Q&A, there was a Q&A question about this, but here's my true feeling about this. And this is what was said. They said in the Q&A, they said, this is what I need. I've been stalling for way too long. And my reply was this. I said, woot, woot. So first off, celebrate, right? I said, congratulate yourself and celebrate. Just being here is the first step, and use that first step to build momentum. You will be unstoppable. Just keep taking action. So let's take a quick moment here, wherever you're at, as long as it's safe to do so. I want to give yourself and your fellow attendees here, just give yourself a round of applause. Let's celebrate. I think I've got a little celebration here we can add into the mix. So nice job. Celebrate. Do it. You can do it. I know you can. And then, that should quit right there. Okay. Using that momentum from that celebration, let's kind of see if we can overcome some common excuses here real quick. All right. So we know we need to do it, right? I think we got a pretty good idea, but we always have a way to find excuses. And what are your excuses? You can type them into the chat, but I think I've got a pretty good handle on them because A, I've used them. B, I've heard them over and over again. So here are three of my favorites. First one here. I don't have time. All right. So your most precious resource is time. When you waste your time doing the wrong things or the wrong things at the wrong time, you lose more time than if you would have just spent this time up front creating the big picture, creating a plan, getting your ducks in a row, so to speak, right? So that is not an excuse that we can use here. I say you don't have time not to, right? All right. The second one is it's just for the big guys. It's only for those Fortune 500 companies. Well, I'm going to ask, I always ask because, maybe someday I'll find somebody, but does anybody here have an unlimited budget? They've got more money than they can ever spend and they'd like to spend it with somebody like me. Does anybody here have that? I'll wait for just a moment, see if there's one person. All right. Does anybody have an unlimited budget? Okay. The reality is nobody does, right? So with a limited budget as a small business, not only can you not afford the time that we just talked about, but you can't afford the wasted expense of trying things, the wasted marketing, the errors, the omissions, the blind spots that you can't see. So unfortunately, this is actually, I think the big guys could probably do with a little less of a plan and they just throw money at it and try to figure it out, right? So, okay, Lynn didn't win the lottery. I thought maybe we'd have a mega millionaire winner in here, and that would be good. Okay. All right. So last excuse here that I've got, and then if there's some other excuses, right? I will go with the flow. I don't need a plan. I'm just going to go with the flow. Well, as I was thinking about this, the thing that I could think of that reminds me of when somebody says, I'm just going to go with the flow is this. All right. Yes, the stuff in the toilet goes with the flow. So I'm just going to leave it at that. But I will tell you this, no good business strategy ever came from just winging it. Because the reality is success is not a superhighway. It is not straight and free. It's not, get in, put on the gas, hit the cruise control and go. It's a lot of twists and turns. It's got potholes. It's got hills, valleys, stops, starts, and it has to be navigated. And a plan is your map to navigate that because success success is about evolving. That's all it is, right? It's you get to success when you evolve and it just requires constant action. So the first thing that we want to spend some time on is really clarifying our reasons. We need to spend some time on this, and I feel extremely strongly about this. Why are you in this business? What are your values and guiding principles? We must start with why, which also happens to be a popular book by a gentleman named Simon Sinek. And it's important to clarify your reasons, because to move forward, especially in the face of challenges, your reasons have to be stronger than your excuses. And that's really important, right? So let me say it one more time. Your reasons have to be stronger than your excuses, right? So some of you might be worried, okay, well, I've already started my business and I don't really have that clarification. Well, not to worry. You absolutely have a why. You maybe just haven't articulated it yet. So you can clarify your reasons at any time. And I'd actually say, even if you have done a little bit of this work, that it's worth reviewing from time to time to figure it out. So here's the basic process. And within this basic process, what I look at first when I'm trying to clarify my reasons is I start with, what are my core values? What's important to me? What are the things that are me, makes me a person? And then I kind of extrapolate out from that to try to understand things like what makes a good day a great day, and what makes the bad days bearable, right? These are my values. These are the things that are important to me. These are the principles. And then that why tends to flow out of that. It's the guiding principle. It becomes your guiding principle for decisions. So, for example, my why, and I said it already, but I'll say it again, is that I want to provide actionable resources that empower small business owners to achieve their idea of success. And that's very clear for me. And so I use that. If I have a decision in front of me, I go, does that help me get to that place? If yes, do it. If no, don't do it, right? So what you find out is, when you're not in alignment with that reason, with your why, that the decisions that you make that aren't in alignment with that, if you look back and are really honest about it, it more than likely was because that decision didn't align with your why. So I want to encourage you to spend some time defining your values and why you started your business. And then from there, there's this thing called the 5 whys. You can go look it up. It was invented by the founder of Toyota. And it really is as simple as it sounds. And so if a lot of people, when I say, well, why did you start this business? Most of them start off with, I started the business to earn money, right? And so then you go into the 5 whys. Well, why did you start a business to earn money? Well, to provide for my family. And then the next why would be something like, why this over another business, or just getting a job, right? And then you answer that why. Maybe it sounds something like, so I can provide for my family on my terms. Okay, well, what's the next why? Well, why is providing on your terms important? And maybe your answer is something like, well, because I didn't like watching someone ruin my hard work just because they owned the business, right? If you work for somebody else and have had that experience, right? And so then you ask another why. Well, why did that matter to you? What value did that rub up against? Because, and maybe your answer is this, because I take pride in my work. And then you ask another why. Why is pride in your work important? Right? And your answer might be something like, because I value customer centricity over policy, right? And once you get to that deep level, now you know your why, because I value customer centricity over policy, and going from there. So there you go. There's clarifying your reasons. I want to just keep throwing stuff in here, and this is kind of, again, I'm trying to, in my brain, this is how it works. You kind of step through these processes. So the next part of this is really kind of getting into the actual plan, right? And there's lots of different templates out there available, and you could go to the Small Business Association or whatever, SBA administration, and all sorts of stuff. I even have one from our success group. But the reality is here, what we're talking about here today is not some glossy thing that you write up and then throw in a drawer and it gets, dusty, right? This is your strategic plan. This is how you're going to operate your business. This is growing, breathing, and I believe that it's got these 5 key areas to it. So I'm going to do my best to get as much detail in here as I can in the time that we have. And I also do a workshop quarterly. I haven't scheduled the next one yet, but if you get on my email list, we can get into this more, where we actually get even deeper into this stuff. So let's start off here. be a goal getter. We've already talked about goals a little bit, and we talked about that some. But now I'd like to ask you guys, if you're brave enough, if you're somebody that says, I have a written goal, if you're brave enough, and I hope you are, I'd like you to type your goal into the chat. And in this part of the plan, I want to help people understand that we want to be goal getters, right? There's a difference between being a goal setter and a goal getter. And it's not just because of the letter S and G, right? There's a little more difference to it. Michelle, you said handouts. I did upload a PDF into the documents there, but you can find it. Hopefully that helps. All right. So I think many of us have set goals, right? Or even if we didn't actually write it down. But a goal getter does things a little bit differently. First, their goals are created in such a way that they actually drives action. You might have heard of something called a SMART goal. And that SMART goal stands for specific, measurable, actionable, related, and time bound. Or there's different people use that in different acronyms. It can get pretty complicated. But I like something a little more simple, and I learned this from my mentor, Jack Canfield. And a goal needs to be two things. And you need to make sure that your goal includes how much and by when. How much, right? And it doesn't have to be money, just how much. Maybe it's followers, lives changed, people helped, whatever. And then by when. You've got to put a by when on there. And when you put a by when on there, I would say go even further. Put an actual time, date, like to the T. So my goal is to support over 1,000 people through a mastermind program by December 31st, 2024 at 11:13 a.m. Central Time. Right? And now I just let my subconscious brain go to work on how to do that, right? I've developed programs and stuff like that. So that's being a goal getter. And here's the other difference that a goal setter and a goal getter is they understand that those goals take those milestones that we talked about, but then they set up a way to review and make adjustments as they go. And it's not as a way to feel bad for missing a goal or a milestone, but instead as a way to measure and make adjustments. Is this working? Do more of it. Is this not working? I need to figure out another path, right? How are you going to measure success is really what this section of your plan should encompass. That should be the final part of that section of your plan. So that's section number one. Section number two, you guys got a bunch of great stuff going on in here. I will try to get back and catch as much of it as I can. So section number two, the relationships. Now, when I was a kid, remember I said I got to work in my dad's business with him and be around what he had going on over there. And he said this to me one day that kind of actually horrified me. He said, gosh, business would be so much fun if it wasn't for employees and customers. And I was like, oh my God, that sounds terrible. Why would I ever want to be in business? But as I got older, I learned to understand that it's a lot more about just those relationships, right? If any of you guys here are parents, and I'm a parent, and one of the most difficult things that I've ever done in my entire life is be a parent. But on the flip side of that, it is the most rewarding thing that I have ever done in my entire life is be a parent. Right. And the same thing happens for the relationships, right? It's all about those relationships. Those can be the most valuable things that we have, yet we don't focus enough on those. Even solopreneurs, you need to define who your success team is, right? I truly believe that no matter what, success is a team sport. And here's the counterintuitive part, that when you start off in this process of defining those relationships, you should start off with you. Look at yourself. Look in the mirror. What is your role? What is going to be your responsibility when your company is at its peak idea of success? I'd go so far as to write out a job description for yourself, as if you were trying to hire yourself. And it's not that you're going to do everything, right? I know people want that cop out. The reality is, if success is a team sport, and I never had anybody prove me any differently. There's always some other people around you, whether that's mentors or vendors or other things around you. So if you don't define what your role is going to be, then guess who gets all the crap jobs after all the rest of it's filled in? You, right? So you need to clearly define what your role is first, And then you can figure out, excuse me, bump the microphone there. Then you can kind of figure out how to put the rest of the pieces into the puzzle, right? So you got to build that frame. You got to build the outside of the puzzle, which is your role. You're the glue that holds it all together, and then start filling that in. So that's the second section. The third section here is the marketing groundwork. And this is the section of the marketing that people don't talk about, really. It gets a little bit of lip service, but nobody ever actually teaches it all that much. And the reason is it's not that sexy magic bullet pill that everybody's pushing, right? Most people think that marketing are the things like my Facebook post, my email message, how the latest funnel, all of that kind of fun, crazy stuff. But the most important part of marketing is getting the groundwork right. So it's the part about understanding who your ideal customers are down to a very specific level. I want to be having a conversation with one person. If I can have a conversation with one person, the clarity of my message will be so much greater than if I'm trying to be all things to everybody. So have that conversation with one person, and then you're going to attract more people like that. So that's the first part of your groundwork, is get clear on who your ideal customers are. Then you need to define what your unique strengths are. And here's why. Because let's say you've got your business and you just happen to be a brick and mortar. And right next door, there's an identical building that somebody moves into, and they set up the exact same business. They have all the same equipment. They sell all the same products. They do all that, right? Those two businesses are still going to be completely different, right? You're going to still have people that go to this place and people that go to this place. And why is that? It's because of the business values, and those come from you. It's your unique strengths. It's you. So what are those unique strengths, and getting some clarity on that. And then from there, I want to take those two things, the needs of my ideal customer, my unique strengths, and figure out what the products and services are that are going to allow me to be the very best in my space. So here's the reality. Once you have answered those things, you can very easily answer all of those other marketing questions that you have, right? But so often we're spending so much time kind of looking to gurus and what social media platform should you be on, and what's a good subject line for my email, or should I do Facebook or Google ads? And honestly, your groundwork, your ideal customers, your strengths, and that intersection will tell you the answers to those questions, right? It's not some overhyped 10x Facebook ad funnel operations. It's what your ideal customers need. Now, I know I see some comments. I don't understand how to figure out who your ideal customer is. And that could be a whole day workshop. In fact, we dig into some of that inside of our success group. In fact, we dig into a lot of that inside our success group. But here's a quick, this is a great way to get you started, and it may get you all the way there. Who knows? If you are doing business with anybody right now, then, and maybe even if you're not, if you can think of that person that you're doing business, and this is the person or the company, the business that you go, gosh, I wish there were 100 more people like that in the world. And then, because as soon as you have that connection, guess what? There are 100 or 1,000 more people like that in the world. You're just not talking to that person. You're trying to talk to everybody. So if you talk to that person, you're going to attract more of that person. And that's what is your ideal customer. It's the person that you love doing business with. In fact, you guys love working together so much that the money becomes inconsequential. And so it doesn't have to be, oh, it's just sports, or we try to like define it down to granule. It could just be a certain type of person, and then get specific. Ultimately, your ideal customer needs to be, and see, Rhonda says ideal customer is a paying one. Well, that's a good start. But if you're trying to attract everybody with money, then you're not going to be able to kind of get to the right place at the right time. Right. So, like I said, we could get way into that. I'm happy to share as much as I can beyond this. And you know, there's some definite stuff out there, but taking time and figuring that out, that could be worth its weight in gold right there. Not the spending money on the Facebook ad person that's going to, you know, do your social media posts for you. Right. Okay. So, I'm doing okay on time, but I'm pushing a little bit here. So I need to, move forward here. So, all right. Next one, numbers game. Now, a lot of you guys are creatives, right? And sometimes when I say numbers and two creative types, I get the glossed over look or the, throwing shoes at me or something like that, right? Many people think that numbers are just the money, the spreadsheets, and yes, that should be part of your plan. And I know that we don't always all like it, but the other part that I think people miss, and we're going to talk about the money part in just a second, but the most important number is 24, right? There's a finite amount of 24s. We all have 24 hours in a day. How are you going to split that up, right? Do you know what you spend your time on? I'd suggest that part of your plan, you should do a time study. See what you can improve on. Just take a notepad with you, and once you change from one task to the next, okay, I replied to emails. Okay, I set up a job. Okay, I surfed Facebook. Oh crap, that was 4 hours of my day, huh? Okay, I made dinner, right? So doing a time study like that will give you those realizations that, hey, where am I spending my time? How can I do better? How can I improve? And then we can prioritize. We're going to talk about the time management stuff here in a little bit, so I'm not going to go too much deeper into that. But that's the first area of the numbers game that I want to wrap my head around is how are we allocating our time that we have, which is the most precious and finite resource that we have. And then we can look at the other numbers, the budgets for sales and expenses and details like that can be extremely useful. But again, just like our milestones and setting goals, this is not a way to flog ourselves for not reaching our numbers. This is just as a measuring stick, right? We need to measure what's working and know what's working and what's not working. So with all that being said, sorry, Regina, I just saw Regina's chat there. And so, yeah, I think maybe my point was missed, right? You have to understand who your customers are to figure out the good way to introduce your business without being salesy, right? So I can't answer that unless I know exactly who your customer is and what are they going to feel is salesy versus not salesy, right? So anyhow, I got off track. I don't want to get off track. Come on, Aaron, stay focused, shiny objects. All right. I love you guys. I want to be able to help you guys as much as I can. So that's why I get distracted. All right. So back to what we were talking about. So the numbers aren't as a way to kind of flog ourselves, just a measuring stick. The other number part of the numbers game that's really important is understanding how much it costs us to be in business each day. Just opening your doors each day involves some costs, right? With that being said, let's take a look at this. One of the other polls, and again, I asked you guys to respond to this, and I appreciate all the responses. Here's another one of those polls. Those that said yes. So I asked, do you know how much it costs to be in business each day? We had some people that said yes, and to me that kind of equals knowing how much it costs per hour to open your doors. And really, by knowing this, you should have some confidence in your pricing, and therefore, with that confidence, with your business, you can more successfully promote it. Now, within what we teach at our success group, we also factor in some things for paying ourselves, or at least planning to pay ourselves, and some other things. And when we do that, one of the greatest testimonials that I ever got from the programs that we built at our success group was the training. And I'm going to read it so I get it right here. Becky says, the training is great. You made it super simple with spreadsheets and other resources. And then here's the part that makes me melt. She said, for the first time in 13 years of being in business, I am paying myself. So that's what it's all about, right? Just understanding that, having that yes. And so make sure you've got that information. You get some other folks that said kind of, and this is where you have a rough estimate, but maybe you're not tracking it. And when it's not something that you track, it's hard to have confidence, that confidence that I mentioned, right? Fluctuation in prices happening right now. So if you're not tracking that, maybe all of a sudden your cost went up and you didn't know it. And this is the mistake that could put me out of business. Maybe, you think about that. So I want to try to have that confidence. So try to move yourself up in that yes category. But then a big chunk said no. And so obviously you can see you're not alone. And I totally understand this place. And maybe you just happened into your business, right? You weren't planning on being in business and somebody said, oh, you make cool things. Can you sell it to me? And then you end up in business, right? And that's totally, a lot of that happens and that's awesome. Maybe you hate the numbers and you just want to be creative. Maybe you don't know how to figure it out. And again, I understand all of it. And And I will tell you that there's help out there. Again, it's a big part of what we do at our Success Crew, and it's why I'm so passionate about this topic. I know that it's drastically needed. I've seen it for the 22 years that I've been in this industry. But I will just say this: if you fall in this category of not knowing your numbers, and then the second side of it, and you don't have a plan, or you're not going to take action to change that as soon as possible, I do want to leave you with a little bit of a warning here. I have seen how dangerous this can be. Remember at the beginning, I told you the story about the company that was on the Inc. magazine top 5,000 list. And if my memory serves me correctly, this is a long time ago, so it might be off a little bit, but I believe they were making about $5 million a year in revenue. That was in 2006. By 2008, they were out of business. They didn't know how much it cost to run their business or to make the products they were selling. And so no matter how great we were at selling, we were never going to get out of that hole, but they just didn't know, right? So it killed an otherwise thriving business. So when we understand that, almost everybody that I've been able to help figure out their numbers, they realized that their pricing was a little bit too low. They actually raised their prices, and they didn't lose all their business like they thought they were going to. Their business actually grew because they were doing the right work with the right people at the right time. So it was definitely a challenge. I see Pam says so sad. All right, so let me keep moving here. So I've got one more thing. We only hit 4. I got one more thing, and I still have some other stuff I want to share with you guys. So the 5th section here is, oops, that shouldn't all come up. Here we go. 5th section, the flow, right? This is all of the workflows, the processes. Some people might call them standard operating procedures, the policies. So talking about today is working on your business part. Right. But we all know that most of business is a working in experience. You've got to process the orders. You got to buy items. You got to make the goods. You got to deliver. And for all of these areas, we need to adopt this pit crew mentality. So familiar with a pit crew, their job is to change the tires and add gas and make any repairs while the race is still going on. Right. And so they work really hard. They plan ahead. They get all the parts and pieces in the right place, so they can go as fast as they possibly can, while, most importantly, still getting it exactly right. Right? They can't miss a lug nut, otherwise the car is going to crash. Right? They don't fill up the gas far enough, they're going to have an extra pit stop. So it's this pit crew mentality that we want to have. And so this part of your plan, I want you to just start documenting. How are you going to operate more like a pit crew and less like a whim floating from one thing to another? Can you make changes in your processes to make you more efficient? Because that time that you get back allows you to spend more time working on your business and whatnot. So Diane says, what if you only have weekends to work your own business? Well, I would say that this is more important for you than somebody that has all the time, all of the hours to work on this. Because if you don't have a good plan, you're going to be wasting time doing things that you don't want to do. And getting this stuff is going to help you move forward faster and get you to a point where you don't have to only be doing it on the weekends. I truly believe that. So, all right. So with this being said, we're going to talk more about this, but this is how I see the whole process of operating a business. You got to plan, you got to perform. What we just talked about was the plan section, and this is actually a book I'm currently writing, so stay tuned on that. But let's keep moving, because I do want to leave a little bit of time, and I'm seeing a ton of great stuff in the chat, and I want to try to get back to some of it, but we'll see how how I can capture that after this is over. Okay, so here's the next thing. Success is only rented, and the rent is due daily. So this is from a gentleman named Rory Vaden. And the reality is, successful people that we look up to as successful, the only difference is they've just failed more often than we have, and they learned from those failures, right? They made adjustments, they got back up, and being in business is actually really simple. It's just not easy. It takes a lot of action. It takes work. It takes improving all the time. And when you do that, you commit to continuous daily improvements. So this is what I want you guys to kind of leave this section with. I want you to make a commitment to yourself right now that you are going to commit to small daily improvements. What can you do a little bit better? right? And it could be anything, right? Could you get a little bit better at sublimating? Should I order a couple of extra products in my next Condi order so I can try and test and get really good, right? So understanding success is only rented and the rent is due daily. How are you going to pay that rent? And it's just, again, continuous daily improvements, but small daily improvements. All right. So I got about 15 minutes left, and like I said, I want to keep some Q&A, so I'm going to keep moving. Section 2, we're going to talk about time management. And it is a big part of working on your business, and our goal here is to be proactive. And we can only do that if we are consciously setting aside enough time to do this. I actually hear from folks all the time, I just don't have time to do this. Yet the flip side of that comment is that I just can't figure out why I'm not having success. Well, do you see the confluence of that, how that's counterintuitive? You've got to make the time to do this, because then you can figure out why you're not being successful and make changes to improve that. So the number one mindset shift that I want you to take from this section is that none of us have a time management problem. Nobody does, because we all have the same 24 hours in the day. So there's no way to get extra time. We're all going to have the same amount of time. What we actually have is a priority management problem. We have a priority management problem. All right. So with that being said, from there, I want to introduce you to two fundamental truths that we can actually utilize to our advantage. The first one is called Parkinson's law, and you can go look it up. I can give you links. But this law states that work complicates to fill the available time, right? Or you can look at it like tasks expand to fit in the time we give it. So let me use a quick example. Maybe your task is you need to write a letter to somebody, and you're going to handwrite a letter, right? So what happens if I say, okay, I'm going to write a letter today? All right, well, I get up, I start my day, I go, yeah, I got to write that letter today. And then I go, oh, let me go find the perfect pen. You know what, I really want to, use a nice, colorful, bright yellow piece of paper. And then I start thinking about it, and then, oh, you know what, I need to use the restroom first. You go use the restroom, and then you get onto something else. You jump on social media, and you kind of go, and then at the end of the day, you go, oh, crap, I forgot to write that letter. And then you hammer out that letter in like 1 minute. Well, what happens if you gave all of your tasks that 1 minute or that 10 minutes? Would you get more done? Because the reality is that letter is going to be the same if you spent all day writing it compared to if you spent 10 minutes doing a good job putting out something that you would be proud of. So we can utilize this truth to stop working on things that don't have to be accomplished until months out, and use that milestone thing that we looked at and start breaking things down into the smallest bits that I can do right away. So if I've got something that I know I've got to do, and we put a time limit of a month on it, well, first off, say, let's try to do it in a week, right? We learned this from COVID. A lot of people are like, oh, I need to get online. I need to do this. And I've got this 3-year plan to launch training online. And then you saw everybody in like 2 weeks somehow figure it out, right? And so you break down that task into small parts and then set an unrealistic goal for yourself. Because if you can set that unrealistic goal, imagine how much more you're going to get done. You just have to let go of that fear of not getting it done. Celebrate what you do get done, and then boom, get it done and move on. So set smaller time frames for getting things done. So that's number one. Number two is called the Pareto principle. You may have heard this referred to as the 80-20 rule. And this principle really states that 80% of your productivity is going to come from 20% of the tasks that you complete. Now, and it's broken down. They've proven this in a whole lot of other ways, like most of the wealth and all sorts of things. The 80-20 rule works across a whole bunch of stuff. But they've also proven when our productivity, that 80% of all of the productivity is actually going to come from only 20% of the tasks that you complete. So that the way to utilize this is we need to prioritize that top 20% of the most important tasks and make sure those are completed first. So let's talk about how do we dig into that process of getting that top 20% done first. So you see up here it says big rocks, and I want to talk to you guys real quick about sand and gravel and rocks. And sand is going to represent the tasks that we take on that are really not important or productive, right? It's the surfing social media, it's the busy work, it's the mindless activities, right? I'm not saying those are bad. I'm just saying that they're not very productive and they're not very important to us. So the second part is the gravel. And the gravel is the rest of that 80% of tasks that we do that can kind of be urgent, but they don't typically really kind of move us very much closer to the big picture, right? It's the 80% of those other tasks that we have to do. It's the putting out the fires, it's the obsessing over ad copy and stuff like that. And then you've got the big rocks, right? And we're gonna look at this. And the big rocks, those are those 20% of our tasks that are going to get that 80% of our productivity done. And these are the important ones that move you closer to your goals. But here's how we look at this. So this is how most of us go about our days. We wake up, we scroll through social media, we answer emails. So we start throwing the sand in the jar. And then we start to put out the fires and we try to check off as many things as possible and on our to-do list. And so we start throwing the gravel in there. And then finally around 3 p.m. after our lunch coma wears off, we try working on the big rocks. We get a little momentum going, but ultimately there's just not enough room for all of the big rocks. That's that 20%. So what we need to do instead is we need to start with the big rocks. We need to make them recurring daily calendar appointments that require special circumstances to move. Because once you get those big rocks going, then you can fill in around those big rocks with the fires and the other people's urgent requests, those gravels. And then even give yourself some time to sprinkle in some, Netflix and chill and surfing social media. And it does not have to be work, work, work all day. And then the best part is, no matter how full you've packed that jar, the story goes, there's always room for coffee with a friend. And this is the time with friends, the recharging, the family time, what I consider the fluid joys of life. We can always figure out how to work that into our day if we've covered the big rocks. So, all right, let's hit this cycle of success so we can tackle these big rocks and get the most productivity that we can. And it is what I showed you earlier. This process starts with plant. We need to ask questions, gain internal clarity, just get that why, the reasons. Then we need to have our plan, right? It's the first creation, the strategy, preparing to do something. And then finally, we need to perform. And this is where a lot of people miss. They don't take action. What are you going to take action on today, right? You need to take action, and then you need to get feedback. And then we talked about rent is due every day. Then you need to make marginal gains. And I call them marginal gains because one of the richest people in the world, Warren Buffett, created all of his wealth based on compound interest. And that's how we generate success. We make marginal, slight improvements every day, and we let the compound interest from those positive actions build up. So perform, right? Perform. Right. And Joya says, you make it sound so easy, but in my head, absolutely. We're all in our head. But what if, right? What if we chose to believe that we could do it differently? Just try it, right? Do something. That's the great part about this. It's simple. It's just not easy. All right. So here's the what if. Here's what I'm going to encourage you guys to do, and then I'll close this out. And I think we've done okay here. I know we've got another session coming up pretty quick. So here's a specific action that you can start taking immediately that's going to get you closer to your idea of success. This is success principle number 23. It's right here in this book, the one that I showed you earlier, and it's called Practice the Rule of 5. And here's each and every day, 7 days a week, you have a list of 5 things that are going to get you closer to your goal. And you put them on there, and you put by what time you're going to get them done, and then you do them. By when, do them. When you check that box, the done part of it, have a celebration, right? This doesn't mean that you have to go out and, drink beers with your friends or whatever it is that you think of celebration is, but to, give yourself a breather, take a drink of water, stand up and go, gosh, that's pretty cool. I'm closer to my idea of success. Celebrate that, right? All right. So finally, key takeaways here. The simple act of working on your business is one of the best cures for being overwhelmed that I have ever found. It's really ultimately about prioritizing and making better decisions because you have a well thought out plan, right? And Lisa, Dairy Queen, that is a celebration for our family too. And we even get one for our dog. That's a long story. All right. So let me give you these key takeaways. And I know I went all over the place, and I know I packed in a whole bunch of stuff, and that the rule of 5 is in that document in the PDF that's in there. So let me give you these key takeaways real quick. I want you to set up milestones, right? Make sure that you can believe it's possible. What's your big plan? And then set up those milestones along the way. Work on the first creation. Any work that you do on the first creation, it doesn't have to be a finished business plan. This is something you should continuously be working on. So be working on that first creation. CANI, this stands for constant and never-ending improvement. Just be focused on that. Don't worry about the mistakes. You learn from them. Focus on the improvement. All right. And that's how you get over. That's how you get out of your head. Right. If I'm so focused on all the mistakes, then I'll never get over it. But if I'm focused on the improvements, celebrating, then I'm going to keep moving forward. Understanding that time is priority management, utilizing that Pareto principle, right? Not trying to overdo it. If we understand that 20% of the tasks that we do give us 80% of our productivity, then perfect doesn't matter. Just something I'm proud of. That's what matters. And then last but not least, put the flywheel into action. You got to take action. All right. So let me throw this up there real quick. If you guys want, you can sign up for my email list there at oursuccessgroup.com/empower. And then, I'll give you guys a quick second and we can put that in the chat. I think if Kylene, if you're there, if you wouldn't mind throwing that in the chat, oursuccessgroup.com/empower. And then last but not least, I did say that this is a big part of what we do. And I would definitely take a look at this, right? And I'm happy to talk to you about it and get a little deeper, and I'm always available to you. So let's try to get some questions. There's no chance I'm going to be able to go in and get all the way back. So I don't, Sprite, if you're still around, if there's any way or whatever, there we go. And we can take this. There we go. Perfect. So if people want to go ahead and ask some specific questions, do we have maybe like a couple minutes or no?
Actually, we're kind of out of time.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, that's fine. So can I just give them my email address one more time? So if they have specific questions, they can reach out to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. It's not on there, but
okay.
That's okay. It's just my name, AARON, at oursuccessgroup.com. So you can reach out to me directly. Actually, if you would throw this slide up one more time, I will show one more thing too. Sorry. And I'll get out of the way. I know I took up. So there's another way to reach me. It's osg.link/volley. And you can actually send me a little video chat. And that's where we go. So Joseph said, where are the handouts? Again, you can email me and I can send them that. And then I guess, Sprite, we didn't talk about the thing I wanted to give away to people. Can I share that? No, I'm
yeah. And I have a winner. So you want to talk about it, and then I'll announce the winner.
Okay, perfect. So the giveaway, people that attended here, we've got this program called the 5 Keys of Growing and Launching, and it walks you through finding your numbers, pricing for profits, setting up workflows and stuff like that. It's a 5. Anyhow, it's a really awesome program. It's what our members get, and that normally sells for $497. And I wanted to give away one of those opportunities to a lucky winner here today. So, who is our winner?
So our winner is Rick McKinney. So congratulations, Rick.
Great. And I just need to get Rick's email address from you, and then we will get him all set up with that. So, and then the other thing, everybody that's in attendance, if you go to oursuccessgroup.com and go to unlock your potential and use the code VIP, that will allow you to sign up for one of those sessions for free. They're normally $20, and you get that for free. So, all right, I'm done. I'm sorry.
All right. Thank you so much. Rick, if you would just, you can either email me or you can reach out to Aaron. And so thank you, Aaron. Always a pleasure. And I will see you soon.
Thanks,
Bye.
guys. Appreciate it.